The fact that we are here, right here, at this moment, is a result of an unimaginable chain of events. Let's think about it. Astrophysicists tell us that the earliest moments after the Big Bang, only the simplest elements existed. That was not enough for life. The carbon that we need, the oxygen that we need, and the calcium, the iron, all of these used to exist in cores of ancient stars. It means that before life could exist, before Earth could even form, many generations of stars had to live, burn through their fuel, and die in explosions, scattering those life-giving elements across the galaxy. By the way, if there are real astrophysicists listening to this, please be kind to me. I am only a rabbi. Then they say, billions of years ago, some of that stardust gathered to form our sun and our planets around it, and the planets around it. And then life emerged. And with it, the possibility of us. Scientists tell us that life on Earth survived through several mass extinctions, through shifting continents and changing climates. Fast forward, humanity appears, develops language, culture, and the ways to pass down knowledge and memory. Your ancestors and mine, scattered across the world, survived famines, plagues, and wars. They endured expulsions and persecutions. They crossed oceans, and they built and rebuilt homes and cities. And they didn't just survive, but at exactly the right moment, two people met, joined their lives, and passed the chain of existence to the next generations over and over again. This is why we are here. One broken link, and we would not have existed. Knowing this, doesn't it make you appreciate your life? The possibility that you and I would be here is almost zero. And yet we are. And how can then somebody want to start a war to destroy life? Why would anybody not want to stop it? Moses, speaking to the Israelites in the final days, begins his speeches, the long chain of speeches, with the retelling of the story of the Jewish people, the exodus from Egypt, receiving of the Ten Commandments, breaking them after the scene of the golden calf, receiving them again, and years of wandering in the desert with its hardship, complaints, wars. Why does he do that? Why to begin his speech with this chain of events? I think he did it to remind Israelites of their incredible fortune and luck to be at that moment in history. Every unlikely event, exodus from Egypt, crossing of the sea, and all the miracles of the story didn't protect people from creating idols, the golden calves. In fact, the fact that you are here, Moses said, is the result of almost impossible chain of events. If history has decided to make you and keep you alive, then your life must be lived as an answer to that gift. And he used an incredible metaphor for after he said all of this. He said, "Umaltem et orlat levavchem." Cut away, literally circumcise, the thickening from your hearts, he says. Ve'orpechem lo tikshu od. And stiffen your necks no more. For your God, the Eternal One, is God supreme, who Elohei ha-Elohim ve'Adonai Adonim, literally God of gods and Lords of lords, and sovereign supreme, the great and mighty and the awesome God who shows no favor and takes no bribe, but upholds the cause of the orphan and the widow, and befriends the stranger, providing food and clothing. You too must befriend the stranger. You too. For you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Thickening of the heart. This phrase seems to mean the insensitivity to the needs and cries of others. Moses is not just speaking about law. He is speaking about the ability to feel the pain of others and help them. The metaphor, I think, is very powerful. As if your heart has a thick layer that makes it impossible for anything to reach it. Maimonides reads this as a continual discipline of keeping the highest moral standard. In his Guide for the Perplexed, he cites this very verse and then says, the purpose of the entire Torah, he says, is to make sure that a person should not be harsh or coerced, but responsive, disciplined, readily accepting mistakes, and composed. So in other words, every choice we make should keep our hearts open to the pain of others, to our own capacity for error, and to the work of repairing the damage we do. A closed heart and mind can hear the truth. A closed heart and mind cannot hear truth, cannot feel compassion, cannot change, and because we must be worthy of the gift of life we received. The Hasidic master, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, was a very popular teacher at the time. And once, when people came to him with endless questions, you know how some people want to kind of ask difficult questions to rabbis, just to see whether the rabbi can answer it. And that's the case. That was the case then as well. So people surrounded him with questions and kept throwing questions at him. And instead of answering, he started to sing a wordless melody in Nigun. And he said, join me. And they sang until everybody joined in. No, don't worry, I'm not going to make you sing now. Only then could they return to Torah study. So why a song? Perhaps because sometimes the call is not intellectual, it's emotional. The heart must be awakened before the mind can understand. And in fact, modern psychology seems to support Moses's or this Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi's warning about thickening of hearts. In 2009, in one study, researchers showed two groups of randomly chosen teenagers a series of short videos. And one group watched calm and ordinary videos. In fact, they were watching videos of cats. It doesn't matter. But the other watched violent and aggressive videos. And researchers then measured their heart rate and other signs of emotional response. At first, their bodies reacted strongly to the violent scenes. But after seeing enough of them, their reactions began to fade. Their hearts didn't race as much, and palms didn't sweat as much. They were getting used to it. And here is the worrying part. Afterwards, they were asked to judge how wrong certain acts of aggression were. And the teenagers who watched violent videos had become numb, indifferent to the violence, and they were more likely to excuse it or see it as not such a big deal. In other words, repeated exposure didn't just change their feelings, It changed their sense of justice and what's right and wrong. And it seems to me that the command to cut away the thickening from your heart is as relevant now as it was then. The covenant between God and the Jewish people, or I would argue humanity, was not given to follow the law thoughtlessly. It was given to bring human life to a level of justice, to care, to act honestly and with compassion. Anything that ignores or dulls that moral sensitivity, we must try to remove. If billions of years of cosmic history, countless generations of human struggle, and the unlikely survival of our families have brought us to this moment, then we already carry within us the strength to do what Moses asked. We can do it. Sometimes it feels that any change is impossible. Nothing can improve the violent and unjust world. But look around. Every one of us is a living proof that life can endure the impossible, and that hearts, no matter how hardened, can be made new. Everything is possible if there is a will, hope, and people who didn't give up. Shabbat Shalom.